Hello everyone, welcome to another live stream. It's Friday. Thank you so much for joining me in this Friday live stream that we are going to use to create a Kanban board, kind of like a Trello clone, but much more simplified. So Daniel RMC, thank you for joining me. So nice to see you again. So yeah, I want to have like a Trello that is not so bloated, you know? Sometimes I just need something a little more complex than a to-do list, but not so many things that it just gets in the way. And I do see myself using this maybe in the future once we finish it. But one of the reasons that I wanted to do this is the idea actually came from the new sort plugin, and I apologize for what I'm about to do. Cover your eyes, flashbang alert. The sort plugin that came out for Alpine.js. I believe that's an incredible plugin. And immediately when I saw that, I thought I have to make a Kanban board. So yeah, that's what we are going to do. For you to follow along, I have prepared a starter template, like a starter point for us to move along, because I didn't want to take you along in a 2-week period of just designing the UI. I think Tailwind CSS is straightforward enough that you can look into the design of a component or a piece of HTML, look at the classes, and just kind of figure it out on your own. I thought that spending 2 weeks just building the UI was going to be a little bit boring. So instead, I took that time, created the UI, split it into blade components, and I'm just going to give you the pieces and show you how they work, give you a little tour, and then we're going to use those pieces to start building our application. Angel Cruz, greetings from Uruguay. Oh, hi, thank you for joining me. So nice to see you. Thank you for being here. So let's do this together. Let's follow along with me. We are going to use this Kanban board GitHub repository. So let's create the project together. Bit. Maybe more. Wow, why did you do that? There you go. So I am going to use Laravel Herd. But if you're not using Laravel Herd, the last step of this installation is to serve your project. But I do recommend that you use Laravel Herd because it creates the website for you. Nord o Primero. Arturo just read my mind. I was looking for a self-hosted Kanban board, but there is no good ones around. Why not build one myself? Also, good night from Brazil. Brazil mentioned, let's go. Hello, North, for being here. Yeah, I know. If you can't find something good enough out there, make one your own. So let's see. Let's do git clone. I already have it here. So just clone the repo. And actually, let's follow there are some installation instructions down here. Let's cd into the project. And then first thing we need to do, compose and install. I have already included some sensible requirements. For example, it already comes with Livewire installed because we are going to need that. And after that, we need a .env file, so cp.env.example2.env. Then we need an application key, so PHP artisan key generate. Let's install our local dependencies with npm install. Even though, well, we are going to need a database. So we do need to create a database file. And the best way to do that is by simply running the default migration. So PHP artisan migrate. And let's create a file because it doesn't exist. And then I'm going to, the instruction says to run npm run build. But that's only if you want to compile your assets and minify them. I want this to run continuously. So I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to do that from VS Code. But yeah, if you're not using Laravel Herd, just use this command to start a development server and go to localhost 8000. But in my case, since I'm using Laravel Herd, I can go directly to Kanban board.test, and I'm going to do that in VS Code. Should see the default Laravel welcome page, and we are ready to go. Cool. So let's open this project in VS Code. Now, let me give you a small rundown of what we have from the get-go, starting with the visual pieces, the visual components, the Lego pieces of our Kanban board. So if you go to, let me make this bigger actually. If you go to resources, views, components, I included a bunch of components here. For example, the UI has a sidebar, a navigation menu, so I included that here. I also included a dialog component that we are going to use for editing and adding new tasks to the Kanban board. The Kanban itself, and also a menu, a floating menu that we might or might not use, but I thought maybe I should include it right away. It's like a drop-down menu component. Everything is just blade templates and Tailwind CSS, nothing too complicated. So let's get into the Kanban itself. So what I did was I created a folder called Kanban, and inside there is an index file. This is like the default starting point of the component tree. So the index is basically just a div with a flex call, flex1, nothing, none of those classes are strange, or there's absolutely nothing out of the ordinary here. And I think the best way that we can see this in action and explain it better is to kind of make a mock-up of the application, and then we're going to add functionality to it. Did you have a Figma UI for the board? I did not. What I did was I follow along. Let me see if I can find it. I went into Adam Wathan's channel, and he has a live stream, very old live stream from when he was starting to develop Tailwind CSS. Let me see if I can find it here. And one of the projects that he live streamed was a Kanban board UI. Yeah, building a Kanban board with Tailwind CSS. So it's a 4-hour stream in total, I think. No, it's a little shorter. But what I did was just basically I follow along and took some of the elements that he created, modified some of them to my purpose, and just updated whatever I felt was out of date with the version he was working on. But that's basically how I created the UI. And after I had the UI, I just broke it down into blade components. That's it. So you can go into here, and he has a bunch of live streams that he did for different kind of projects. Maybe you can find something here that will spark an idea for one of your projects or something that you need. You just have to keep in mind that all of those streams are like 4 years old or 5 years old, basically when he was just about to release Tailwind CSS. So in order to demonstrate what we have UI wise, why don't we let's create a Livewire full page component and then like assemble like a mock-up of what the application will look like. So yeah, let's do that. First thing that I need is a Vite server. So npm, I like to use bun, see if this works. Bun run dev or npm run dev. Actually, let's stick with npm since we used it to install it. Okay, that's running. Add another terminal and PHP artisan make Livewire. Let's call this board. Do I need a layout or do I already have a layout? Okay, so I'm gonna create this. So this creates two files, a class and a view. Now for the class, I already included a layout file called Kanban, and it's not much different from a regular application layout. The only difference is that I need this div class as the root element to be the height of the screen and also flex, because the elements that I'm going to add, the sidebar, the header, and the board itself all need the root element to have a flex display. So since we have a layout already, in that layout file component class, it's on an app view Kanban layout. What we can do is open the Livewire component we just created, and above the render, we can use an attribute, not an attribute, what is this called? Whatever. Just mark this with the layout. Yeah, it's an attribute. Layout attribute, and for layout attributes, you can either include the file, the view file name, or the view component class. In this case, since we have a class, we can just use Kanban layout class. And that Kanban layout class has a render method itself that looks for the layout's Kanban view. So our full page Livewire component is going to use and extend from that layout. Then let's go over to our route file. And let's replace this with our Livewire component. So board class. Now, if we go to the browser and refresh, we should have a blank page, and it's looking black because I set it specifically for dark mode. We're going to start with dark mode, but all of the visual components already come equipped with the light mode itself. Let me show you what that looks like. In the layout itself, the sources, views, layout, Kanban, you can see that I have a dark class here, and every class that I use in all of the components have a light and dark mode variant. So right now, because my system has a preference for dark mode, that's why we see it dark. But I do want to switch things up from time to time just to test. So the way that you do that in Tailwind CSS is you go to the tailwind.config.js file and add a dark mode setting and set that to selector. This used to be class, but it changed to selector in the latest version. So when you do that, every element depends on a root element that has the dark class assigned. In this case, the layout has the body with a dark class. So that means that all of the elements below it, or all of the child elements, will look for that parent element dark class. And if it finds it, then everything will be dark. But if it doesn't, everything will be light. And the way we can showcase that is we open this, examine the body class, go to the classes, and if I uncheck the dark class, then everything becomes light mode. And if we enable it again, then it goes into dark mode. It's like a very easy way to check your UI to make sure that it works on light and dark mode itself as well. Sorry. Okay, we have a blank canvas. Let's create a mockup. Let's go. Let me close a few things here. So this is our board component. Let's go to the view of this component, which is in resources, views, Livewire, board.blade.php. And I don't remember if I have to. Yeah, I think the root element has to be the board itself. So let's check out components, Kanban. Index, I believe. I think so. Let's try it. I don't even remember how it goes. So the index goes like flex call. Oh, I think I remember now. So it's going to use the layout. Let's see how this goes. So let's first add the sidebar. So if I use X sidebar, and within the sidebar, we have the brand, so X sidebar, and this is how components within folders work. I can use sidebar brand dot brand, so this will refer to the sidebar folder and the brand component within it. And I think this is self-closing. Let's see how that looks right away. Am I missing the image? Apparently I am. Let me look for that image. I have that image of a logo that I created for this. Let me go fetch it real quick. Actually, let me check the component. Views, components, sidebar, brand. It's looking for laptop and laptop dark. This is one, and where is the other one? Maybe it's not here. Just 1 second. Maybe here and here. Public G. Here they are. Actually, I'm gonna take those 3 pictures. I forgot to include them in the project. So let's create a folder here. I will push all of the images when we are done today. So once we're done here, I will push an update to the GitHub repo and the images will be included. Okay, there it is. So that's the branding. I think everything is looking good. So next, let's add a group. So let's go back to the board and we can add a sidebar group here. So X sidebar group. And a group is nothing but a container with a header and several navigation items. Let me show you how that looks. So the sidebar group receives a label prop and it has a div where you can put all of the navigation items under this group and then displays the label here. So if we say, let's give it a label of tags, for example. And within the sidebar group, we can use X sidebar item. And the sidebar item looks like this. We have 2 props, either whether it's active or not, so that the link will have a will be highlighted when it's active. So that's a Boolean property. And also we can pass in a batch number. That is for when you have navigation items that have total counts next to them as a batch. You can pass the batch number there and it will be displayed. And also I'm getting the href from the attributes. So what you do is we can pass an href here. This will be the link for the sidebar item. I'm not going to have anything just yet. So let's use the £sign. And let's say that this one has a badge. Of maybe 10 items. And what else? Oh, let's make this one active. So active equals true. And if I'm not mistaken, since this is no, it's a literal. Sometimes when you pass props into a component, you have to use the column, but I believe that's only if the attribute is receiving a variable that has to parse. But when it's text or literals like true, I think it'll work without it. If not, we'll come back to that. And let's set the label for this as all tags. Let's copy this few times. This one will not have a badge and will be false. And in fact, let's just copy that one. This will be bugs, a bug, and let's call this enhancement. Sorry. Something like that. Let's see how that is looking. All of them are active. Why? Oh, well, okay. So I guess we just have to use the column. All right. This is not going all full height, so maybe I guess this root element has to have the classes from the layout. I didn't realize that. Let me check. No. Okay, let's keep going. Let's see how it goes. So we have a sidebar, and then after that we need to create a Kanban board. So right next to the sidebar, we can use X Kanban. Which will be the index of it all. And then we need a header. And I think this one is self-closing. Let me check. Kanban header. Yeah. It's going to have a slot eventually, but right now it's just the title of it is hard-coded. We're going to modify that later. Oh, and I forgot to include hero icons. Let's fix that. See how I'm using hero icons as blade components in the header, like this. This is because I forgot to include a dependency. Blanking on the name. UI kit? Let me check. Yeah. But it's the hero icons blade UI kit. Like so. Just do a quick composer require for blade UI kit, blade hero icons, and that should do it. The only requirement for this to work is that you need to add one folder under resources, I believe. Called SVG. Yeah, it's not flexing. So I'm guessing, let's see. Let's go back to the layout. I thought it was going to work with this as a root element, but I guess this class attribute H screen flex has to go into the board template in the root element. There you go. Now it's working. And now the sidebar is extending the whole screen. This one is going to extend all the way once we add the board below it. But right now, right off the gate, it already comes with this functionality to open and close the sidebar. So below the Kanban header, inside the Kanban component, we now need a Kanban board. So X Kanban board. Which looks like this. Very simple classes. This one is kind of important because this one is the one that is going to scroll horizontally when we have several columns in the board. It's going to allow us to scroll horizontally in the board. Let's save that, see how it looks. It's already scrolling a little bit, but that's going to be fixed. In the board, we are going to create, let's create one group. X Kanban group. And the group does accept a prop of label, which will be the column label that goes at the top. So let's say label let's call it to do. All right, that fixed the height. I don't like that this is not extending all the way. Why? But this basically are going to serve as our columns for all of the tasks. And in fact, let's add a task with a card. If we do, why are you not, there you go. X Kanban card. Is it card? Yes. And the Kanban card looks like this. It doesn't take any prompts. It's actually an A tag. So you can pass an href, so when you click on a card, it can do something or go somewhere. And the slot is just the description of the task. So we can say, I don't know, task description. And it looks like that. I have to fix this. Well, I don't know why not extending. So this is how a card looks like. Right now, this badge is hard-coded, but we are going to modify that so that we can have different categories of cards, as well as the date. That's going to change. And in fact, we can have multiple cards. So if we do this and then paste it a few times, it also gives us a scrolling bar, so we can scroll vertically without the column is not going to extend any more than the height of the screen. So if we have more cards than the height, it's just going to scroll over. And we can have also multiple groups. So if we take this group and we paste it a few times, oh, that's what it needed. I don't like that. Apparently the header is extending with the columns. What happens if we don't have the last group? Yeah, I don't like that. We're going to fix that. This should extend all the way, regardless of the size of this. But yeah, that's basically the the gist of the UI. It has all of the necessary things that I think we are going to include in the project, which is we should be able to filter. I repeated this one. I don't like that. We're going to use the sidebar navigation to filter the tasks that we have on screen, filtering by tags. But you can do whatever you want. I mean, you can use that navigation bar for any purpose that you want. It's yours. You can use it however you see fit. If you want to change the logo, you know where to change it. It's in one small component for the branding. We're going to be able to search the tasks on screen, and eventually we are going to add a drop-down menu here for the profile. And that's kind of all of the things that I want to do, as well as, you know, showing board, showing different columns, adding more columns, adding cards, editing cards, all the stuff. I think the next thing that I want to cover right now is I want to get started on the functionality of the thing. And we're going to start with a few tests. I want to stick with testing for the majority of the project. We'll see how it goes. I might deviate from testing from time to time if I think it's getting in the way. But right now, the best way to get started, I believe, is by creating a few tests. And in fact, if you check the tests folder, I've already included a test file with a few test cases to get us going. And they basically match the Livewire component that we just created. So first thing I want to do is make sure that I can show groups in the UI. All I'm doing is using a group model, creating 3 groups with distinct names, and then mounting the board class and asserting that I can see those titles on the screen. And for this, I'm going to go back to the board template just to make sure that there is nothing in the way. I'm going to leave the sidebar, but in the header, but I'm going to remove all of the groups. Just leaving the board as that. Okay, so that'll give us a clean canvas to start testing. Before I do that, let me check that everything is set up for testing real quick. Check PHP unit. Yeah, I want an SQL database, and that database will be in memory. And also, let's check what was the other thing. In the test folder, open pest.php and make sure that the refresh database is uncommented, so that every time you run a test, the database is created and deleted for each test. Okay, let's start with this first one. Of course, the group model doesn't exist. Once we have the model, it's already included up here. So now it's complaining about the groups table not having a column named name. Create groups table. All right, we're past the database stuff, and now we need to actually display those groups on screen. So let's go to the board. And let's do for each. And the way that I want this is to have a groups variable in this Livewire component. And I want to display an X Kanban group with a label. And this time I do need to use the column for the label, because I'm going to pass group name as the label. And now it's complaining because there is no groups variable in our component. So let's go over to the board Livewire component, and let's add one public let's just say groups. And of course, we need to initialize this in the mount method. And let's say that this groups equals group all. Okay, we need that class imported here. Good. So we have groups, we can show groups, and we can see groups. Next, I want to show all of the tasks from a specific group. And to do that, what is this? To do that, I'm just creating one group, again, with a factory. And then I'm creating 3 tasks with different descriptions for that group. And then mount the board again and assert that I can see those task descriptions rendered. Integrity constraint violation. Oh, okay. So it's complaining about the name now because I'm creating a group here, but I'm not passing the name as a state. So since I don't want to do that because I'm not interested in the group name, let's modify the group factory to include a default name. And the factor, if you didn't catch that, when I created the model, where is it? When I created the model, I used -mf, and that stands for migration file. That's the M, and the F stands for factory. So it creates a migration file and also a factory class. So that's why that is present. And in the factory, I need to stop highlighting. And then here I need to add name. And let's use fake word. So that will give a default name whenever I create a new group from the factory. App models task not found. Yeah, of course, the task model doesn't exist. Let's create that. So we have a model task, a task model, task factory, and task migration. Okay, this one, call to undefined method, task group. This happens because I'm calling the for method on the task factory, which looks for a relationship named group based on the model name here. That means that I'm basically saying this task belongs to a group, but that group relationship doesn't exist in the task model. So let's go ahead and add it. This is a belongs to. This belongs to the group model. And now it's saying, okay, this belongs to a group model, but the table doesn't have a foreign key for this relationship. There is no column named group ID in the tasks table. which makes sense. So let's go to create tasks, migration. And in here, I'm going to add the table for an ID 4 and then use the group model class. Okay, we're past that error, and now it's saying that there is no column named description in the tasks model, which we can fix right away from here. All right, we're past all of the database stuff, and now it's complaining because we're not displaying the task description on the page. So we have to fix that right away. Close a few things. I don't need the model or the factory. I do need this. So inside the group, now we can do what we did before, but now let's use a for each. Since we have a relationship between the task and the group, we should, in theory, have a relationship the other way around, where a group has many tasks. So we can access we can access that task collection like so. And in here, we can do X Kanban. I'm guessing you're gonna get sick of me hearing me saying Kanban all the time. Task, no, card. And the card takes in the task description. So task description. And that's going to fail. You'll see why, if you can guess. So for each argument must be of type array object null given. Can you guess what that error is? That's correct. There is no tasks relationship on the group model. So therefore, when I call tasks, it's giving me a null value, and a null value cannot be used as the first argument for a for each statement. Very good. You're very smart. So let's go to the group model. And let's add that relationship. This is a has many. Run the test again, and now we have a green passing test. Awesome. All right, we're doing good. We can show groups. We can show group tasks. What's next? So, last test for the day before we wrap up is, sorry, I do want, and the object of the goal of the project is that you can drag tasks around and also column. But talking about tasks, I need a way to order and show those tasks in order. So we need a sorting method that then is going to be used by the sort Alpine.js plugin. So the way that we're going to do that is, again, I'm going to create a group and then 3 tasks as I did before. But in this case, I'm going to create those out of order to make sure that when I show them, they actually show up in order. And by doing that, I am including a sort column in the state. And that sort value has to start at 0 so that it is compatible with the sort plugin. So the first task, task 1, will be index 0, task 2 will be index 1, and task 3 will be index 2. And then I create all of those tasks for that group, mount the board, and then I use assert ctext in order and make sure that I see task 1, 2, and 3 in that specific order. So let's run this. It's complaining, obviously, because the table tasks doesn't have a column named sort. So let's go ahead and add that. I'm going to use an integer for this. I'm not concerned about database size at this point. So I'm going to use an integer. Sorry, sort. An integer column called sort. Okay. Okay, now it's saying that probably the order is wrong. Yeah, contain task 2 in specified order. If you remember, task 2 was the first one that we create in the test. So it's showing in first place, and that's why the test is complaining, because it should show up in second place. So now we have to order the list. There are several ways we can do this, but I think the easiest one and simpler, like the simpler solution would be to, since I am always going to show this in order no matter what, I'm going to create a local scope in the task model. And then I'm going to use that local scope in the relationship in the group model, like this. So first open the task model, and I'm going to create a new function here called public function scope in order. Now this function does take in I need to pass in the an eloquent builder so I can modify the query. So this will be builder, and that builder class has to come from database, Illuminate database eloquent. Let's call this query. And here I can say query order by sort. So now I have a scope in the task model that I can use to sort all of the tasks by the sort column. And the way I want to use this is go into the group model. And in the relationship task, I can say this has many tasks. Oops, sorry. And then use the local scope in order. And now everything is good. If you don't want to sort the relationship itself, you can choose not to do it here. And in fact, let's show that example, because maybe there are occasions in which you want to use a scope but not directly in the relationship. So for example, let's delete this from here, and let's say that we go back to the board view, and instead you want to do it directly in here. So you can do, instead of calling tasks directly, you use it as a function, and that will give you back the relationship, and on that relationship you can use the local scope. And that is, oh, and after that, because that gives you a query builder, you do have to run the get method. Otherwise you'll get a builder, not a collection. And that is basically the same thing, except that you see what's happening from the view instead of just calling the tasks relationship without knowing what's happening on the background. Maybe that's better for you for legibility and to connect the dots easily. And let's save. Let's run it. Oh, what's happening? Really? Call to undefined method in order from has many. I thought this would work. Oh, if you type it correctly, it will. Maybe. Okay. Yeah, it works when you type. So yeah, that's basically the same thing as we did before. And if that works better for you, it's completely acceptable. If you see this and you see, oh yeah, I'm getting the task in order, and instead of just not knowing what's happening with the call of the tasks relationship, completely fine. And in fact, I'm gonna leave it like that for now. Maybe we can change it later if push comes to shove, but I like it too. I like that way. I think we can call it a day right now. We did a lot today. This is failing, of course, because maybe we should... Did I include... I think I included a seeder, right? Database, seeders. Yeah, I already included a seeder with this project to create a few groups and a few tasks. One group and a few tasks. So let's do that. Make sure that everything is running fine. So PHP artisan migrate fresh -- seed. Database seeded group not found. Oh, I'm missing an import here. And if I'm missing an import, I'm also missing the task import. And most likely the sequence. All right, let's try that again. Now it works. And if I go back here, should be fixed, and it is. Okay, few things that I need to fix for next week. This thing, the header has to extend to all the way to the side, but at least we have some of the functionality already here. We can show groups, we can show tasks. And next week we are going to introduce the sort plugin so that we can start sorting things in the same group. And yep, probably more. We're going to cover more, of course, but I think for now everything is as it should. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me on this Friday. Have a great weekend. I hope you do. It's a long weekend, right? In the US at least. If you're from the US, happy summer, happy Memorial weekend. And for everyone else, have a great weekend too. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Give a like if you haven't as well. And as always, see you in the next one.